Hey there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another video. This is the first in a new series of videos in which I'm going to be showing you how to draw various types of manga characters. Now, I don't mean like famous, well-known specific characters, but types of recurring characters that you see in lots of different manga and anime. Today, we are going to be learning how to draw a classic manga-style maid. Wearing a French maid's costume and so forth. So people like to know what size I'm working at. I've put these squares in place to show you. Each one of the squares is 2.5 inches on all sides. That works out to a little over 6 centimeters, but you could just go ahead and make it 7 centimeters. You could make it 138 centimeters on all sides if you want to, because I don't control you. You are in charge of your own lives. In any case, let's go ahead and get into this with a few basic guidelines. So here we have the basic head shape. It extends from the top to the bottom of this first square and is up against one side, but you can see a bit of a gap there as it is taller than it is wide. We're doing a 3/4 point of view here, turned a little to one side, and so I've put a sort of vertical line here to help us place the eyes, the nose, and the mouth later on. Probably the trickiest part, almost certainly the trickiest part, is this area over here where the circular top part of the head comes down, reaches a certain angle. Pay attention to this shape here. That might help you get that right. But otherwise, let's go ahead and get 2 lines going across here for placing the eyes. So I've added 2 horizontal lines here, quite widely spaced, so as to make the eyes very large later on. We'll make her very youthful and cute looking. But for now, instead of drawing the eyes, let's move on and draw the rest of the upper body. So here we have the lines of the neck, quite narrowly spaced from side to side, because I am drawing in a pretty cartoony style here today. And then you just have a curving line that comes down here. We begin to get the shape of the upper sleeves, which sort of puff out in an interesting way. See if you can get those lines where you need them to be. And now we're going to add just a few more to finish off the arms and maybe a suggestion of the skirt. So you see that the upper sleeves, very much puffed out, come down quite tightly right here, I'd say just above the elbow, where the cloth becomes much more form-fitting. And then this line is sort of like a very high waist. In fact, I guess I could go in here and draw this, a second line down here, suggesting cloth, or this sort of apron that she's wearing, pulled very tightly around the waist. Well, this whole area is going to get much more detailed later on, but I want to try to show as much of that as possible real time. For now, let's zero in on the face, and we're going to draw some guidelines for the eyes and for the hair. So here are the lines for the hair. I've decided to give her a relatively short hairstyle, and you'll see that there are 2 slightly curving vertical lines here on either side of where the eyes are going to be. And then notice how this line, the basic contour of the hair, comes out quite a distance, actually touches that first line of the square there, and curves across here. Let's do then the eyes, the basic guidelines of the eyes, and then we'll knock it off with all the time-lapse. We'll tell old man time-lapse to go get a coffee. And yeah, we're going to do an extended real-time drawing session as I add in all the details. So notice the placement of the eyes, a big sort of egg-shaped oval here that's right up against that line that we drew for the hair a moment ago. And then this one compressed very much from side to side, a common strategy for showing a 3/4 point of view, this eye being a little further away from us. So let's now knock it off with the time-lapse. I'm going to start drawing more of the details of the face. Let's begin with that. And so I like to stress that everyone can kind of come up with their own ways of drawing eyes. If you want to follow along with this, you will see me doing a pretty thick upper eyelash line here that extends a little bit beyond that oval shape of the iris, but not very far. And in fact, you could choose to have no lower eyelash at all. I'm going to erase the guideline here so as to not have to do it later on and end up messing up some of the line work. But if you do want to put in a lower eyelash, you should feel free to do so. Don't let anyone boss you around. in the realm of eyelashes. But I try to keep it thin down here, not making it as thick as the upper lash. Is that a word? The upper lash. I'm going to add just one little extra line here as the fold of the upper eyelid. And I suppose I might as well go ahead and put in a bit of a highlight here. I'll put a sort of oval-shaped white area of the highlight. And then this is very common for certain types of manga eye styles, is to put, it's almost like a letter U or a crescent moon kind of a shape in here that is a very stylized pupil, I guess you'd have to call it. I'm going to darken in the edges of the iris a little more, and later on I think I'll be inking all of this. My plan for today's video is to ink and to add color toward the end. Well, this eye is very similar, just compressed a bit. Let me go ahead and do that part in time-lapse. Okay, so now it's time to draw the eyebrows. I'm going to go ahead and put them in just sort of a gentle curve here. Note the distance from the eyes. If you put them up really high on the forehead, it's going to have a look of surprise. When eyebrows are down low, close to the eyes, it tends to intensify the facial expression. But notice also when the head is turned in a 3/4 point of view, very often this eyebrow is shifted off a little bit to the far side of the moon, the far side of the scalp, I guess I should say. And let's use this vertical line from before to help us place the nose, which in this drawing style is really little more than a dot. Just a cute little dotty nose. And then for the mouth, I'm going to use actually this line, not for the center, that's just what they would be expecting. That is not what we're going to do. I'm going to use it for the one corner, shifting the mouth back just a little bit. And there you go. The facial features couldn't be easier. Oh, it could be easier, Mark. It could be a lot easier. And then I may be refining this. This is one of the hardest lines here, the contour of the face, but I think we got it pretty close. Now let's move on and draw the hair. I do want to try to do the hair real time. I very often speed through the hair in time-lapse, infuriating my viewers. They start dropping like flies. I was doing fine until you went into time-lapse, Crilly. But this hairstyle is going to consist mainly of sort of like letter V type shapes. Each one of these strands of hair looks like a giant letter V. And you can just sort of fill in the gaps from that initial line. I think we can go ahead and maybe erase more of this upper line at the top of the scalp. Although we're going to be giving her a sort of a headdress. I don't know if that's the right word, but sometimes maids have a cloth that goes across the top. It's almost like a symbolic hat because it's not covering very much of the head at all. Looks almost like a tiara, but it's made out of cloth. Let's go ahead and get into that. I'm going to draw a curving line that basically follows, at least it's placed across the top of where the scalp line used to be before I so rudely erased it. And this is going to allow us to draw a sort of wavy shape up here. And don't feel like you have to follow this exactly. I mean, basically we're creating a cloth shape that, pretend it's your character and you're in charge of designing the uniform. You don't necessarily want the uniform to look exactly like the one I'm drawing anyway. So the way I'm doing it, it ends up with like 5 different waves. And having got that in place, I'll go back and erase that initial line of the hair. A lot of erasing today. People are like, why are you having us draw lines and then erase them? Dude, you are wasting our time. But I'm going to draw in a second line here. This is all going to be sort of like frills along the edge of that cloth. But maybe I'll hold off and do the frills later on. Markcrilley. Sorry. Add that to the long list of terrible dad jokes. There will be one sort of tie or like bow on the edge of each side of this. Again, I don't know exactly what to call it. It's sort of like a tiara, cloth tiara. So if you know your French maid clothing terminology better than I do, which is to say everyone in the world, let me know. What is this called? But I didn't say anything about this bow, did I? I just drew it while gabbing. You can see it consists of two vaguely triangular-ish shapes here poking in toward the middle. I'm going to go ahead and put a square here. That's where it ties together. And then more sort of rectangular-ish. Everything is ish today. The ends, I guess, of the cloth that makes the bow tie. And if you put in one extra line here and one extra line here, suddenly, miraculously, it looks like a little bow. Happily, over here on this side, we don't see it so much because she's turned away from us a little bit. So I'm just going to sort of toss in a... maybe we can see just half of it. That gets me out of extra work. The less drawing I have to do, the better. So yeah, just to sort of hint at it over there. And let's continue drawing the hair. I have a habit of not wanting to cover up the eyes. I know some people don't mind having the hair come right in front of the eyes. I am of the school that wants to preserve those, I put all this time into drawing the eyes. What, I'm going to cover them up? Why would I do that? And so you end up with, in my style, very often a sort of an M shape here between the two eyes. And then rather than having this so obviously left blank, I may add in one or two strands right there. And then, just to sort of move things along, I'm going to go ahead and add, again, these sort of V-shaped strands. Let me know if you like me doing the hair all in real time like this, or if you consider it an unnecessary expenditure of time. And then down here, sort of like behind them, is this like a back curtain of hair. All of these lines are sort of curving in a little bit towards the neck, at least the way I draw it. And you may get one or two extra lines in here. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing over here. The back curtain of hair. How's that for describing it? The hair curtain. And that maybe does it for the hair. You should, I always say, feel free to make it your own, come up with your own hairstyle. Give her pigtails, a ponytail, anything you like. I think it might look better if I interrupt the contour line of this cloth tiara so as to make the hair sort of break out in front of it. And then very quickly, I said I was going to put off the details until later, but I lied to you. I'm going to do it right now. Let's go ahead and put in a whole bunch of little lines, some of them close together, some of them just a single line, and this is going to help us later on turn this into a series of frills, ruffles. What's the difference between a ruffle and a frill? A ruffle. It's a combination of the two. And that takes care of that. Well, I know that I have a bad habit of drawing things down below the frame and spending 15 minutes drawing something that you can't see. So I'm going to head that off right now, nip it in the bud, and shift the camera so that we can draw the rest of the costume in real time. So now let's move on to drawing the collar. It's going to come up pretty high across her neck. And then I'm going to divide it and have it sort of be rounded at the edges instead of a pointy collar. And then this one that's sort of turned away from us, much harder to see, I'll just sort of zip it in there. And then I thought it would be nice if the collar kind of matches the cloth tiara thing. So I'm putting in a second line here, and then I'm going to do that same thing like I did before, just put in some indications of ruffles. And then this one also would have ruffles on it, but harder to see since it's turned away from us. I'm going to erase the line of the neck. Goodbye, line of the neck. And now it is time to draw a bow, sort of like a bow tie, I guess it is, except it really looks more like a shoelace kind of shape, you know, coming down into two long triangularishes. A triangularish. You know what I'm saying. I hope you know, because I don't. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the two more rectangular shapes just beneath those initial ones. Maybe I'll change the edge of this to make it look a little more like a bow. Sometimes I find that inverting this just a little helps kind of sell the idea that it's a bow. And of course it always helps if you can get a second line in here that helps convey the structure of the bow. Now behind that, I'm going to make a secondary line. We're starting to get into the costuming here. And I'm going to put it right about in here. And all across this top part leading up to her shoulders, I'm going to do two at a time, sort of tightly packed lines that they're like pleats, aren't they? I guess the cloth is pleated up in this area, and we have a whole area up here that you can do if you want, where you add a nice big area of frills. I'm just going to go all the way across here. You don't need to be perfectly consistent with this shape. You almost can kind of invent your own shape. So don't feel like you have to do exactly what I'm doing here. Indeed, don't feel you have to do exactly what I do at any point in the video. But I'm erasing away that line so that you can see the shape that I've added in here. It almost looks like a purse or something, maybe. Who knows? It doesn't look like a purse. What are you talking about? And I'm going to divide this into quite randomly. You know, this is all sort of, I'm kind of winging it here. You don't have to feel like, oh boy, which line goes where, what angle, you know. Keep it loose here, because what you're doing is turning this into a series of really big ruffles. So I'm going to take, like hearsay. That's not a fact, it's hearsay. I'm taking this area over here and dropping in a secondary line back here that makes it look as if it's folding underneath. Does that make any sense? And you can do the same thing over here. And little by little, this whole area starts to look like really big ruffles. This is the kind of thing that you might have to do it a few times before you start to figure out your technique. I'm not going to pretend that this is easy. This is may prove tricky, especially for beginning artists. I'm interrupting the contour here that was quite a straight line, and I'm trying to have it bunch up. Again, trying to convey this idea of ruffles. The more you can sort of separate out these areas, the more we get the idea of it being ruffles, sort of separate regions of cloth. And yeah, maybe, you know, a line here or there can help suggest wrinkles. So there you go. And then over here, it's kind of going to be the same thing. Forgive me for bringing back in Old Man Time-Lapse. I'm here. I'm always here when you need me. To sort of repeat this, but in the opposite direction. All right, so now we can come down to these highly puffed out sleeves that are underneath. And what I'm going to do is put in a few curving horizontal lines here to suggest the wrinkles of cloth, as I said, kind of pulled in real tight here at the base, so that you can imagine the cloth coming out. Now notice the shape of these lines. They're like little hooks. And that, to me, signifies that sort of billowing cloth, you know, that's been tucked in real tight down here, but as it comes up, it sort of puffs out. And you can get in maybe a secondary line up here that helps to convey. I think part of the reason that that Maid characters are so popular is that there is something just really appealing about this costuming. And especially when we add the color later on, you're going to see it really transform into, you know, what appears to be authentic French Maid style costuming. Again, just a sort of hooking around here can help to convey that puffiness. Maybe an extra line up here. And as we come down here again, anytime we have a situation where the cloth is being pulled real tight, as it is here around the waist, making it hard for her to breathe. Oh, why do I have to wear this all day? Pulling tight here, it's nice to add a little bit of, add a few lines that come up out from underneath that, right? To help sell that idea of this all being made of cloth. And there's not a whole lot of space down here for this last bit, but feel free to, you know, if you've got space on your page, to expand beyond this in your own drawing. But this whole area here should really kind of come down into an apron. I'm just hinting at the top of it. In a way, it's a repeat of all these parts of clothing that we've been showing so far that have an area of ruffles along the edge. It's part of the job. You must have ruffles everywhere if you're going to be a maid. She wanted to be a maid, but she just couldn't hack the ruffles. That's why she had to leave the profession. And so hopefully you can see sort of the suggestion here of a cute little round apron that comes down here in the front. Well, let's pull back so that we can see the entire drawing. All right, well, I hate to do this, and I know a lot of people will hate me for doing this, but I'm going to complete the rest of this illustration all in time-lapse. In my defense, the title of the video is How to Draw a Maid. It is not how to color and ink an illustration. I have done a number of videos that show various coloring techniques. You know, one handy thing that you can do anytime you're wondering if I've ever done a certain type of video, just Google Crilly video and then add the word, right? Crilly video coloring, you know, and then Google's pretty amazing about giving you the video that you're asking for. So forgive me, my friends who hate time-lapse, but I'm going to go ahead and finish everything off. One unusual thing that I'm going to do, though, is to do the coloring with markers first and then save the inking for later, and I will be back to explain the advantages of doing that in just a moment. But let's go ahead and get all of the coloring done. Okay, so you can see I decided to add in just a little bit of a bow in the back. You know, this cloth being pulled back, I thought it might be a cute little addition to the costuming. One quick thing I'd say about the coloring is notice I'm using a light purple here. I hope it shows up that way in the video rather than gray, or certainly not a dark black for the shadows. It can be really appealing to use, I'd say either a light blue or a light purple for the shadows. The coloring of the hair, all sort of one shade of, if it's orange or whatever you want it to be, then a darker shade for the shadows. Same thing going on here with the eyes. And to a degree here with this cloth, it is the same marker, but I've gone in multiple times to make it darker. And what I'm going to do right now, just real quickly, is begin to add ink with a Micron Pigma. Oh, look, you can see the price, $2.80. If anyone ever asks, how much does it cost? This will be the video that showed you. But I was going to say one of the advantages of if you decide to do color first and put the ink in later, it can help in terms of, you know, that classic problem of coloring outside the lines. If you do the color first, you can alter the lines to fit the color that you already put down, and depending on how, you know, good you are with the precision of your lines, you can kind of create the illusion of something that was colored perfectly, because the lines have been made to fit the color rather than the other way around. The disadvantage is that when you go over the pencil, you will end up sort of locking all those pencil lines underneath the marker, and they can no longer be erased. So, as in life, there are always trade-offs, people. You get one thing and you give up something else. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off the inking, and then we'll be back with a few final words. All right, so you can see I added just a few final touches with the white gouache, as so often I do. But this illustration cannot be finished until we add the blushies. And I would advise you never to forget the blushies. Just for your own safety. The blushy fans will come after you if you forget them. But let me go ahead and grab my books so that I can thank anyone who's supported me by getting them, like Brody's Ghost and Miki Falls, my 2 graphic novel series, as well as The Realism Challenge, my book about hyper-realistic illustration techniques, and of course Mastering Manga and Mastering Manga 2, my How to Draw books. Always super appreciative of anyone who goes out of their way to support me and my family by getting those books. But let's go ahead and lay down this pencil. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another one real soon.